a lot of death, and it's hard on me, even in YouTube videos. I'm going to go ahead and come out at this point in the semester against death, particularly in this fashion. In 1868, Isaac Moore was accused of attacking a white girl and trying to rape her. The sheriff had Isaac Moore in his possession, but a mob took Isaac Moore from the sheriff and lynched him. In 1869, Jim Quinn, Baltimore County, accused of assaulting a 65-year-old white woman, taken from jail, lynched. Thomas Jurek, lynched in 1869, Prince George's County. 1872, John Jones, Cecil County, accused of arson, lynched before ever getting to the jail. 1875, John Henry Scott, PG County, accused of rape, lynched. 1875, John Sims, Anne Arundel County, accused of assaulting a white woman, taken from jail, put on a train, lynched outside Annapolis. Michael Green, PG County, taken from jail, lynched. 1879, James Carroll, lynched in Frederick County. 1880, Montgomery County, Poolesville. George Peck was accused of trying to assault a young white girl. She was 11. I should mention at this point that most of what we know about these lynchings in most of these cases come from newspaper accounts, which are produced by white people who were in favor of the lynchings and often were part of them. Because there's no courtroom record in so many cases, they're filled with stories that the accused criminal confessed once in the hands of the mob. Okay, I don't think that tells us anything. Now, in George Peck's case, he supposedly confessed to planning to rape this young white girl once he was in the hands of the constable. She had no evidence of any sexual crime. She had some very light bruises. This could have been so many things. The constable was supposed to bring him to jail, but brought him to a tavern and may or may not have colluded to hand George Peck over to the mob, who lynched him next to a Presbyterian church in Poolesville. In 2023, this memorial was erected. These are all around Maryland today, erected in recent years. And if, in this iteration of the class, we don't get all the way to the present, then it's important to recognize how much it means to have these markers up, to recognize the injustices of each of these lynchings. And if the stories of all the murders bring you down, let the fact of the memorials bring you up just a little bit. Because having memorials like this helps prevent things like this from happening in the future. In 1880, in Rockville, 6 months after George Peck was lynched in Poolesville, John Diggs, listed sometimes as John Dorsey, was accused of raping and assaulting a white woman. There was a 2-day manhunt, and Diggs was taken to jail in Rockville, and hours later taken from the jail and lynched. The article here is lynching humor, that he was found dead of strangulation after a brief suspension. Even the names of his supposed parents were minstrel show character names. The fellow you see over here is Judge Richard Johns Bowie, who, contrary to the majority white opinion at the time, believed that lynching people was a violation of the law and those that did it should be brought to account. So when the grand jury was impaneled to investigate, he urged them to bring the lynchers to justice, to help stop crimes like this in the state of Maryland. He was condemned by the Montgomery County newspaper for defending the law, and he died soon after. The grand jury said that it was done by persons unknown. Can't tell you. They don't know who it was. Obviously, they know who it was. Let's just go back to our list. Moving quickly again. Remember, you don't need detailed notes on the ones we're moving quickly on. Just a sense of the commonalities, and if you find a story particularly interesting. 1884, George Briscoe, Anne Arundel County, arrested for a minor robbery, but he offended the judge and white people in the courtroom by displaying bravado in the court. What does that mean? He was taken on the way to jail and hanged. 1884, Hezekiah Brown in Howard County married a white woman. The neighborhood was angry and hanged him. Nicholas Snowden, lynched in Howard County, 1884. 1885, Townsend Cook, taken from jail, hung. In 1885, Howard Cooper is 15 years old. He is, the historians of this conclude, was probably mentally ill, obviously untreated. He was accused of attacking a 22-year-old white woman. She didn't say that Howard Cooper raped her. She said that he grabbed her. He admitted that he grabbed her. But the white doctor who examined the white woman said that she had been raped. Howard Cooper admitted that he had grabbed her, but denied the rape. She didn't say she had been raped, but Howard Cooper was convicted of rape and sentenced to death. Incredibly, the entire jury who issued that sentence was black. Don't write that down. When I said that, you should have went, wait, what? That's right. There are no black people on any juries in Maryland. It's a whole justice system controlled by white people. Remember, it's this year that black people first got allowed to practice law. Remember your old friend Harvey Johnson? Yeah, you do. Harvey Johnson called BS on this whole trial. I'm sure he called BS in a way that a respectable minister would. And he started trying to raise money to appeal the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court, because black people were never allowed into a jury pool in the state of Maryland. Not only were they never on a jury, they never got invited to court to potentially be on a jury. The white newspapers scoffed. They said he'll never raise enough money. Within months, he had raised enough money and announced that he had enough for all the legal fees, the lawyers. He was going to appeal to the Supreme Court. And they had been waiting for that moment to prevent the appeal from getting to the Supreme Court. A mob in Towson attacked the jail and lynched Howard Cooper. A memorial erected in 2021. (1886) Charles Whitley, Calvert County, taken from jail, lynched. Grand jury says persons unknown. Don't know who it was. 1886, David Johnson, Allegheny County. A white man who seems to pretty clearly have been mentally ill was charged with killing another white man, and a mob took him from jail. One newspaper says that a guy named Michael Malone was convicted of manslaughter for David Johnson's lynching. If that's true, and there's no other source that mentions it, then this Michael Malone dude would be the only conviction for a lynching in all of Maryland's history. In 1887, Benjamin Hance, St. Mary's County, accused of trying to assault the sheriff's daughter, taken from jail by a lynch mob that included the sheriff in a bad disguise. The grand jury says there's no one to bring charges against, even though witnesses tell the grand jury that was totally the sheriff. 1887, John Biggis, Frederick County, arrested for assaulting a white woman, taken from jail, lynched, with help from the fire department. Joseph Vermillion, PG County, 1889. White people in PG County attacked a member of the Vermillion family. The newspapers are unclear whether it's his brother or his dad. I'm not totally clear. But white people in PG County attack a member of the Vermillion family, burn his house down, and tell the entire family to get out of the county. Now, at this point, if this was a society of law and order, the people who just burned down someone's house and told the family to get out, obviously they'd be arrested. That's not going to happen. So when some white property burned down the next day, they blamed the Vermillions. And Joseph Vermillion was identified by one of his brothers. His brother may have been tortured and seems definitely to have been threatened. So Joseph Vermillion's arrested for arson. He's taken from jail, dragged through town, and hung from a bridge. 1891, Asbury Green, Queen Anne's County. Sentenced to 16 years for rape. He maintained his innocence, said, "This woman has the wrong dude." I don't think he said it exactly like that. The judge believed him, sentenced him to 16 years instead of death. That wasn't good enough for the white people in town. He was taken from jail and lynched. 1892, James Taylor, accused of assaulting an 11-year-old white girl. A mob of 1,000 in Chestertown broke into the jail with sledgehammers. By agreement with Chestertown city officials, they didn't lynch him in town, but took him outside of town, lynched him there. 1894, Isaac Kemp, Somerset County. May or may not have stabbed a cop. 100 masked men broke into the jail, fired 50 shots into his cell, killed him there. 1894, PG County, Stephen Williams, accused of assaulting a white woman. A mob battered their way into the jail and hung him from the same bridge where they had hung Joseph Vermillion 5 years earlier. The next year, James Bowens was accused of trying to rape a white woman, taken from the Frederick jail, hanged from the same tree where John Biggis was hung in 1887. (1895) Jacob Henson, Ellicott City, convicted of killing his white employer, planned to appeal to the governor for clemency, and was taken from jail and hung. The murderers put a placard on Henson's body that said, "The appeal to the governor forced the law-abiding citizens to carry out the verdict of the jury." Lynching was peaking at this point. In 13 years, from 1885 to 1898, there were 22 lynchings in the state. The next two were white men. 1895, Marshall Price, a white man, got blamed for the murder of a 14-year-old white girl. Didn't get charged or convicted because he was just held in the jail and was taken from there by a white mob and hanged. The next year, 1896, Joseph Cocking, Charles County, an English immigrant, white, I think, English. He was what? Complexion-wise, he was white. His wife and sister were found chopped up. He was suspected. The judge moved the trial to another county because everybody thought he did it. And so a mob, fearing that he wouldn't be convicted in another county, broke into the jail and killed him, and then blamed it on the court system. How dare you consider letting him have a trial in a different county? These murders show the creeping danger of lynch law. We're going long in this video. I apologize. Actually, let's not. We'll wrap it up in one more.